Hey everyone, welcome back to VO Booth. This time we are going to actually get into the battle system for this game. As I kind of mentioned before, the battle system, I really do like it in this game. However, the first few battles of this, like the first few hours or so, it's not especially interesting. A lot of the battles that you'll fight in the first few hours kind of resemble this, where you're just kind of using this, you're just kind of attacking enemies with standard attacks. Occasionally you'll use some more advanced attacks than this, but you don't really get anything that's too strategic until a few hours into the game. So as you can see here, this is a sort of a grid-based battle system where you're moving, you have to get close to enemies. And it works pretty well. I mean, I know I just spent the last minute saying how this isn't particularly exciting, which you'll see it isn't. Especially because it doesn't look like these first few tutorial battles, they have enemies attack you. One of the interesting things, though, you might have noticed, is when you attack enemies with just physical standard attacks like that, you push them back a little bit. And so that just further adds to the... Oh, and here I'm just looking through the... showing like, oh hey, the enemy shows up on the map when you fight them. And it shows their elemental weaknesses and stuff. Anyway, though, you might have noticed that when Joshua attacked that enemy, it pushed it back, which it can actually push an enemy out of the range of your other allies. So it does pay to pay attention to what angle you're attacking enemies from, when you are, because a lot of time, like as you get further in the game, like where the enemies are positioned and where your characters are positioned matters a lot. And so if you're kind of just carelessly moving your characters around just to get an easy attack early on, you can kind of mess up your strategy when you realize, oh, you just hit an enemy out of range, or you just put your character in range or out of range of something bad or beneficial, respectively. So here we're showing off the magic system of the game, which is related to the orbments. As you saw in the previous video, when we attach the orbments, based on what orbments we attached and where we attached them, it gives them certain magical abilities. For Joshua, both of them get a standard elemental attack, and then Estelle, she gets a healing attack, which I'm not sure if I use in this video. I might have just not bothered. And then Joshua gets another skill, which is a speed buff skill. I think it's called... I forget, I'll see it in a few minutes, but I never found the speed buff skills particularly useful. Oh, but before we get into that, though, these are craft skills, which are kind of just like the skills of the game, I guess. And they're actually really useful. I find them a lot more useful than the standard attacks, definitely. Estelle's first one is just kind of an attack boost thing, but Joshua gets a double hit attack, which pretty much doubles his attack power. The only downside to his double hit attack is that the miss rate, I don't know if I miss attacks in this video, but the miss rate in this game is actually pretty high. You can't really rely on hitting every single attack. And even an attack that does double hits, it can miss the first and second hit, regardless of whether the first hit or whatever. Oh, and also, as you might have seen, every treasure chest in the game, it has alternate dialogue if you read it after the chest has been opened and emptied. And it's actually really funny dialogue, and there's actually I believe there's an achievement for reading them all, which I didn't get, but yeah, they're all really funny. So if you play this game and you find treasure chests, definitely take 5 seconds to read the alternate dialogue for each one, because they're all pretty funny. So getting back to crafts, they use this thing called CP at the bottom, which are points you build up for attacking enemies. And so that's kind of what you use them for. And then if you get 100 CP, you can use something called an S-break attack. S-break attacks can jump your character ahead in the battle order, which is really helpful if you need to take out a really strong enemy before they have a chance to attack you. Clearly these enemies aren't strong at all. But you can also, they're basically really strong attacks too. So there's really strong attacks that can skip you ahead in the battle order. The downside to them is that it uses up all your CP, which means that after you use them, you're most likely not going to be able to use your useful skills, anytime soon in the battle, or at least not immediately. And so it really decreases the flexibility of your character, in that immediate battle. And I guess versatility would be the right word. And so I tend to use them less and less as I go on through this LP. Just because it's usually a lot more important to be able to use your skills consistently and often, as opposed to just, throwing out a huge amount of damage in one turn against one enemy. There are a few times where one enemy is just way too dangerous, and I do end up using S-breaks to just get rid of them pretty quickly. But it's also a pain. You can always, in between battles, build up your CP again, just fighting random battles. But it's a real pain. If I ever do grind CP or experience, I'm probably going to do that off screen, just because it's not interesting. I'm sure people who are better at this game can go through this game without grinding. Clock Up, by the way, is that magic skill that boosts speed. Oh, I never really explained why I didn't like Clock Up. The thing about magic abilities, as you can see, is that there's a decent charge time. It's not like Final Fantasy X, where it's like, oh, you're using magic, so, you're using magic this turn. There's a decent charge up to it. And so I never found the speed up ability is supposed to make your character have more turns in the battle order. If you compare it to haste in Final Fantasy X, I never found it that much more effective. So I really never use that skill that much at all. But yeah, magic is one of those things you have to be careful about using, because there's definitely a delay time. So, sometimes if you really, really need to heal your character urgently, or an ally urgently, then you might not really get a chance to, or you might have to risk them. You might just have to cross your fingers and hope an enemy doesn't attack them before you have a chance to heal whoever needs healing. Oh, and by the way, this battle also, either this battle or the battle before, introduced these little bonus things on the side. You can see that if you have a turn when one of those little icons on the right of the turn order, little flow chart or whatever you want to call it, if your turn happens at the same time as those little icons, you get a bonus. The bonuses range from having greater physical attack, greater special or magic attack, and then healing. I don't remember if there's a defense up bonus. I don't remember. By the way, one thing I wanted to mention while this little scene is going on is that if one of the things I really want to do with this channel is just do more, like I said in the previous video, I want to do more things related to VO in terms of discussion and things like that. So if anyone has questions about, again, I'm not a voice actor. I've sat in the room and helped record voice actors for years. But I'm not a voice actor, so I can't really give that sort of perspective. But if anyone has any questions about like the process of, voice acting, and recording it and just delivering it, or any, my opinions on things, feel free to ask in the comments and things like that. Obviously, I can't talk about something that would violate an NDA, or anything like that. That's a fun fact about the entertainment industry, or at least the video game industry. That's the big bummer, is that NDAs kind of prevent you from telling your friends what you're doing until after you're done doing it, which, depending on the game, can be like a year later or even more. So that's kind of the bummer in the video game industry, is that you can't really talk, like, you could be doing something really cool, but you can't talk about it. Maybe in the most vague of terms, you can talk about it. You can say like, oh, I recorded something today, and it was fun. And that's pretty much what you can tell them. If your friend is an audiophile and is into audio, then you can be like, oh, I use this microphone, and maybe that can provoke some sort of discussion. But overall, if you work in the entertainment industry or the video game industry, I'm not really much. I don't have much experience with the movie industry, but if you work in games, then yeah, you're gonna have to keep your mouth shut. So yeah, at the end of every mission, you have to come in and report your results, and it's just kind of a formality. There's no real difficulty in doing it. You just have to go back, and it pretty much that's just how you get your money. You get something called BP points, which, depending on how well you did the mission, there's some missions have a variable amount of BP points you can earn, and that affects your. So see, we gained 1 BP, and that affect there's a certain total you can to 100% this game. You have to get all the BP points, and so certain missions, certain decisions you make, or if there are certain additional optional objectives you can fulfill in a mission, and that will give you extra BP points, and that affects your rank. And oh yeah, she's talking about it right here. And so there are some benefits to it, which we'll get into. One more thing I want to mention about the NDA thing is that anytime I go on the internet and see something leaked about a game, whether it has to do with voice acting or not, sometimes it doesn't. It really does piss me off, just because working in this industry, I mean, I don't work for a developer. I work for a third-party vendor. So, I'm very rarely in the... I don't know. I don't know what the point I was getting at with that. Very rarely in the video game media are people ever criticizing my company, if ever, because they don't even know we exist. But despite some of the crummy things that the video industry has done, I feel pretty grateful for being able to work in this industry, and I always get pissed when I see someone leak information, especially if they're part of the team, just because it's sort of not being very grateful for the opportunity you've been given in the industry. And a lot of these people who have leaked things, I don't think they've leaked them because they feel it's the right thing to do, or because it's they were somehow they're I don't know, they were offended by something that happened in their industry. I feel a lot of those people just leaked it because they wanted their 15 minutes of fame on the internet or something, or wanted to just, I don't know. But yeah, if you ever work in the game industry, don't leak things. It's just an asshole thing to do. I know, sites like Kotaku and Polygon probably love leaks, and I mean, even I reading, when all that Smash Brothers stuff was leaked last year, I loved reading about that stuff. So I mean, I'm not, totally innocent of not reading that stuff, but don't do it. It's just a jerk thing to do. So yeah, sorry, I was talking over that entire part of where they become actual bracers, which I guess is a big deal in this game. There's not a lot of fanfare. It's just regular background music playing, regular dialogue. They are now officially bracers, and as you saw, that entire process of them going to the sewers and doing their thing, going back to the guild and reporting the results, that's pretty much all. That's what happens with every mission. So yeah, the first, I guess we've been doing this about an hour. This LP has been happening, so I guess this first hour just kind of does show a nice overview of what this game is like. Yeah, so if you think this first hour has been good, you should buy this game, or you should, yeah. I mean, I'm still going to continue doing this LP. This isn't all right, you saw the first hour, now, go buy the game. But if you ever see it on sale on Steam, or just, have the money to drop on it at, the MSRP, yeah, buy this game. So yeah, next time on VO Booth, we will get into more interesting stuff with this game. Hopefully, this is when the story kind of starts to pick up here. So bye.